necessarily reflect those of station staff, management, and advertisers.
All right, what's going on, everybody? A very happy Monday. Thank you so much for joining us. It is Pushing the Limits. Hope everybody had a great weekend out there. You could be watching on the Occupy Democrats Network, the Washington Press Network. Of course, we're on my personal YouTube page at PTL Radio Show. We're on TikTok. We're on X. We're on Twitch. We're everywhere. And we appreciate you being a part of the show. Yeah, we got a big show lined up for you today. We got some special guests, including a guy by the name of Jack Maxey. Now, you might find that name familiar. Jack Maxey is was Steve Bannon's longtime podcast co-host, and he has gone completely on full-blown attack on Steve Bannon, calling him a coward, saying he owes him 15 months of pay, saying he's going to get the New York Attorney General to, quote, end this fat fraud's freedom. So Jack Maxey, he's also known as the guy who really leaked the Hunter Biden laptop story. So he's probably going to want to talk about that as well. We might disagree on some stuff and we might agree on some stuff, but Jack Maxey has certainly some things to say about Steve Bannon, and he's going to be joining us coming up here in a little bit at the bottom of the hour. Obviously, the big news today, as I told you, I said it could have been released as early as Friday. I was a few days off. It was released today. The House committee has released the Matt Gaetz report. And I can tell you right now, in this report, I was not surprised at anything. In fact, I expected everything that I read in this report that came out. So I want to just run down what's in this report before I give you my commentary on it, give you my thoughts. But to save you a little bit of time, here are the highlights. I hate to use that term, highlights, because it's despicable behavior, borderline criminal, I would say. But here is kind of a rundown on what was in this report if you are unaware. From at least 2017 to 2020, Matt Gaetz regularly paid women for engaging in sexual activity with him. Back in 2017, Gaetz engaged in sexual activity with a 17-year-old girl. During the period of 2017 to 2019, Gaetz used or possessed illegal drugs, including cocaine and ecstasy, on multiple occasions. He accepted gifts, including transportation and lodging in connection with a 2018 trip to the Bahamas, in excess of permissible amounts. In 2018, Gaetz arranged for his chief of staff to assist a woman with whom he engaged in sexual activity in obtaining a passport, falsely indicating to the U.S. Department of State that she was a constituent. Gaetz knowingly and willfully sought to impede and obstruct the committee's investigation of his conduct. Remind you of somebody? Gaetz also has acted in a manner that reflects discreditably upon the House. I think that's an understatement. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the guy who Donald Trump chose to be the next Attorney General. Now, this is also the guy who showed naked pictures of women on the House floor to some of his Republican colleagues. We know that because a few Republicans have confirmed that. And this is also the guy who never passed a bill in his life. He was a noisemaker, not a lawmaker. And he's been on social media over the course of the last several hours trying to defend his indefensible behavior. Now, the 17-year-old girl already has legal representation, so we'll see how that goes from here on out. But if you don't think this is problematic, and when you hear these MAGA Republicans make their excuses, and when you hear these MAGA Republicans claim they care about children, but yet when it comes to the Matt Gaetz report, oh no, let's talk about something else. We don't want to talk about the Matt Gaetz report. It's just a bunch of liberal Democrats. No, it's not. The committee is based half and half with Democrats and Republicans, so they can't make that excuse. So to talk to us about the Matt Gaetz report and this AMFest, I certainly want to get his thoughts on it. He's awesome. He's a great follow on social media, has a wonderful YouTube page. There's a reason why he's got like over 500,000 followers. From Midas Touch, it's a pleasure to have back on the program Adam Mockler. Adam, thank you so much for joining us, my friend. Good to see you. How are you? Adam, are you there?
There we go. You hear me now?
There we go. I got
My
you.
microphone was connected. How you doing? Thanks for having me on, Brian. It's always
thanks for being here, Adam. I always appreciate it when you take the time to come on. Boy, there's so much to talk about since last we had you on. Let me start with this, the breaking news, and I kind of gave the rundown to everybody. The Matt Gaetz report. I'm not surprised at anything in this report. I just want to get your thoughts on it. What were your first thoughts when you saw this report?
My first thoughts were about the double standards at play between the two parties and how if a Democrat had this happen to them, it would be the end of the world. Every single media station would be relentlessly covering it. And, you know, it reminds me of how they were targeting Sarah McBride. I think it was the one transgender congresswoman. There's one transgender congresswoman. They were targeting her, blowing this up to be this big story. And to be honest, if I were a woman, I think I'd feel more comfortable being alone with Sarah McBride than someone like Matt Gaetz. But then they blow up the story that is a nothing burger. But then when Matt Gaetz he actually slept with a 17-year-old girl. He paid her via Venmo while he was in Congress. That is absolutely insane to me, that this is not some story where Republicans are, I don't expect them to call out their own side, but they're just completely blind to it. They're completely blind to the fact that Donald Trump is mingling with sexual predators, with sex offenders, with people like that.
You know, you're absolutely right, Adam. This is what I think happened and how it went down. And you could tell me what you think about this. Matt Gaetz was worried that this report would become public. I think he crawled to Donald Trump and probably begged Donald Trump, make me the next attorney general so this report never becomes public. And I think from Donald Trump's point of view, hey, I'm going to do Matt Gaetz this huge favor. If he becomes attorney general, then he's going to be a yes man to me in every possible situation. Really, without getting into the weeds, I think that's exactly how this all went down. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think Trump analyzed the scenarios, and honestly, it was sort of like a win-win-win for him in a way, because even if Matt Gaetz doesn't, or if he gets denied like he did, then it's like the Trumpian anchor tactic from The Art of the Deal, where you always make a crazy ask, and then after that crazy ask gets denied, you guys land somewhere in the middle, but then the middle is actually still more favorable to you. So I think Matt Gaetz also, he was thinking about it in a few scenarios. Either Matt Gaetz makes it through, that's a win. If Matt Gaetz gets denied, he's a good anchor, so I can push someone else crazy through, and people will be like, "Whew, at least it's not Matt Gaetz." So yeah, I think it was just like he did the cost benefit analysis or whatever you want to say.
Do you think that Matt Gaetz has any possibility holding office ever again after this report has become public? We've heard obviously rumblings that he wants to be the next governor of Florida. I don't think that's going to happen. But do you think this is maybe the last we hear of Matt Gaetz' political career? Or do you think there's still a chance that he can run for office?
I would never put it past Republican voters to vote someone like that back in. But I feel like he's going to kind of lay low for a bit. He's going to do his whole, what is it, Newsmax? Or he's on somewhere now. He's going to play the media for a bit. He's going to be a huge Trump stooge over the next 4 years. I think there's a way that he can re-enter politics at some point. I mean, didn't Anthony Weiner have a scandal and then re-enter politics? It wasn't as bad like that. But then he re-entered politics after a few years. Mm-hmm. I could see Matt Gaetz doing something like that. And again, like, voters don't care. Trump literally has done so much stuff, and the Republican voters in particular. I mean, Republican voters are so sucked up in this ecosystem. I don't even know if they'd care. And it also just pisses me off. It blows my mind that they will constantly call Democrats groomers or pedophiles or whatever you want to say. But then on their side, they're just completely blind to this, completely blind to what Matt Gaetz has done.
Yeah, they want to talk about Jeffrey Epstein. They want to talk about, well, let's release a report. The ethics committee will release a report on every single politician, but yet they don't focus on this actual report and the fact that Donald Trump actually chose this guy to possibly be the next attorney general. I mean, what do you make of some of these other picks, right? I mean, I talk a lot about Pete Hegseth and the despicable human being and the way he's lived his life. I talk about Tulsi Gabbard, who I personally believe is a Russian asset. Don't even get me started with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. What do you make of some of these you-know-what crazy picks? And do you think that they will be confirmed?
It's hard to know exactly who will be confirmed and who will get resistance. I think a few of them will make it through. But it kind of just reminded me of the section from 1984 by George Orwell. There's a page, like a paragraph. I'm not going to say it exactly how it was, but it was like what was it? The institution of trust, or the Ministry of Trust was made to spread lies. The Ministry of Health was made to spread like harm. The Ministry of All of these different things
Yeah.
are the inverse. So what Donald Trump is trying to do is shake up the very institutions by appointing people that are the antithesis of what these institutions are. You can look at RFK Jr. Going to the HHS. That is the exact thing of having the Ministry of Truth only spreading lies. It was the Ministry of Plenty only spreads starvation. That was one of the examples too. And you can use that as like Tulsi Gabbard as a DNI is the antithesis to what that institution should be. I think Tulsi Gabbard gets denied. I hope. I think Pete Hegseth likely gets denied. There's a lot of stuff about him drinking and stuff like that. I don't see it happening. Wow.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you there. I do think the best chance to get confirmed is probably Robert F. Kennedy Jr. We'll have to wait and see.
I can see that.
Yeah. So I tend to agree with you on your analysis there. I don't want to dive too deep into the AMFest, but I do want to talk a little bit about Elon Musk, because Donald Trump made a point yesterday in his speech in Phoenix to say Elon Musk could never be president because he wasn't born in this country, because a bunch of people like myself on social media were calling him President Musk. I think we should all continue to do it. This seems to bother Donald Trump, and it seems like it's taken away his limelight, and we all know he wants to be the center of attention.
And he's also completely missing the point there. We're not saying that Elon Musk is actually going to run for president and be on the ballot and get all the electoral votes. We're saying that he's pulling the strings and he's running. He's like running stuff behind the scenes. You can see that Elon Musk sent out the tweet to nuke that funding bill before Trump sent it out. His tweet preceded Trump's tweet. And then it makes you wonder, was the Republican Party following Trump or Elon? And to be fair, they only started to act after Trump sent out the tweet. But Elon Musk may have intentionally sent out that tweet first to beat Trump to it. So I'm thinking he's probably a little bit nervous that somebody else has this much sway over the Republican Party. But also, I just want to bring it back to like what I said right when I came in. The double standards at play here actually kind of hurt my head, because it's a little bit on the nose. But do you know how many times they've talked about George Soros? Yet Elon Musk, could you just imagine for a second if Bill Gates bought Facebook, used Facebook in 2020 to spread pro-Biden information, and then Biden wins, and then Bill Gates and Biden are just hanging out openly everywhere. They're just openly walking around, and then they're in the White House together. They take meetings together. Biden gives Bill Gates the phone to hop on with other world leaders. Republicans' heads would actually explode. Yet they're sitting here like, no, this is how democracy is supposed to work. This is how it's all supposed to work as we slowly turn into an oligarchy.
I completely agree with you. It blatant hypocrisy at its finest. And I noticed yesterday it was the same old lies from Donald Trump, and we're going to get into this a little bit later in the show, but focusing on transgenders, right? There's only a man and a woman. There's only two genders. Again, the culture wars. He doesn't have any plans how he's going to end the war in the Ukraine. No plans on what he does in the Middle East. No plans on, inflation. Yet he's backtracking, saying, well, it's going to be really hard to lower the price of eggs. Nothing in his speech yesterday. It was almost like it was another campaign rally. And I look at some of the speakers, like the Schneiders of the world and Carrie Lakes of the world. I just think to myself, how can people actually be paying to listen to these people speak? You'd have to pay me a lot of money to sit there and have to listen to it. It was almost like a comedy show of the white supremacist grand wizards. I mean, that's what I would call it. And Charlie Kirk leading the pack. What did you make of this AMFest?
A lot of things. First of all, the trans thing that Trump said was pretty disgusting. How is the president-elect targeting a specific group of people like that? It's absolutely insane. And we can have arguments on whether or not the Democratic Party or our activists have taken like some trans issues too far. That's a valid discussion. Is the Democratic Party beholden to some of our activists? But that's not what Trump's doing. Trump is purposefully targeting a group of Americans to pinpoint them and make their lives harder. That's disgusting. And you touched on this perfectly, but he is now doing the exact opposite of what he campaigned on. This was the No New Wars guy. This was the No New Wars crowd. And now they're all saying, yeah, maybe we should invade the Panama Canal. Maybe we should invade Canada. Maybe it would be a good 51st state. You know, the account End Wokeness on Twitter, they were always saying during the election, don't call us a fascist. There's nothing fascist about us. Yesterday, they made a post where it was a map of the US, Canada, and Mexico. And they said, we have 100 days to do this, or like we have like a year to make this happen. That's why we call you fascists. So the fact that the No New Wars guy now wants to start wars, the fact that the lower grocery prices guy is now saying, well, there may be some pain after I inflict tariffs. Everything is just antithetical to what he ran on. And he's probably talking about trans people to distract from that fact.
Yeah. Speaking of trans people, I wanted to get your thoughts on Nancy Mace. I've made it very clear on this show. Obviously, I believe someone when they say they're the victim, but I don't believe Nancy Mace. I don't believe she was ever sexually assaulted. And then you have this situation where she has a handshake, and some people would describe it as an aggressive handshake. Some say it was a normal handshake, and then she goes in an arm sling the next day. She tweets over 1,000 times about a trans colleague, and what she did is some sort of hero or champion, because a trans woman can't go in a woman's bathroom in the House chambers. But yet after the school shooting last week, we didn't hear one tweet from her. Not one tweet on gun control, not one tweet on things that actual most Americans care about. I just think this woman is a complete lunatic, and she's unhinged. What do you make of Nancy Mace, her behavior, particularly over the course of the last few weeks?
Just to prove your point about how performative she is, the fact that she's more scared of Sarah McBride, like I said, than Matt Gaetz is insane. Like, this is somebody who repeatedly talks about how they've been assaulted before, but you're going to let Matt Gaetz just be your friend, and you're going to target Sarah McBride. It's just performative. It's disgusting. She is straight up a bully. It's also indicative of the media ecosystem. You know, okay, here's the thing. The Nancy Mace versus Sarah McBride thing was a perfect microcosm of how trans issues work in America, because you have Sarah McBride, the one trans congresswoman, just one. And she said, I want to put my head down. I don't want you guys talking about my identity. I want to put my head down and just function. Yet it's the Republicans who are blowing this small story into this massive bill. They're trying to pass a bill just because of one person. So again, it's a microcosm of how there can be one transgender person in a whole group of like hundreds of people. Yet that one transgender person is picked out by conservative media to make a nationwide story. So it's just, it's interesting.
I wanted to ask you, Adam, because you have obviously a lot of fans on social media and a huge following. And after Donald Trump won the election, obviously we both did not want that to happen. I think we're both pretty clear on that. But it's interesting because people on the right, some say, oh, Brian, your show is going to be over. Nobody's going to watch your show anymore. And I'm sure some people have said similar statements to you. I think one could make the argument that we're going to be maybe even more popular. Not that we wanted Donald Trump to win, but maybe what we do will be more popular in calling out the BS and the nonsense. What are your thoughts on that, on Trump's victory? Obviously, you didn't want him to win. I didn't want him to win, but it almost seems like you need more of Adam Mockler. You know, you need more Midas touch because of what has taken place.
Yeah, it goes.
Uh-oh. Adam, did we lose you? Did we lose Adam? Okay, we got to get Adam back up. Sorry, Adam, we lost your audio a little bit. Are you back, Adam? No.
Can you hear me?
There you go. You're back. I'm not sure what happened there. That's
so,
okay.
Of course, it goes without being said. Sorry, I think my phone just disconnected.
That's okay.
So it goes without being said that none of us wanted Trump to win. We worked against that every single day. But of course, this is going to be good for the media ecosystem. You can look at 2017 to 2021. The media ecosystem in particular, like digital media, saw a massive spike in viewership because people are sick of mainstream media. So it's not that we're sitting here celebrating. It's that we're going to realize mainstream media is dropping the ball. CNN is dropping the ball. MSNBC is dropping the ball. So now the onus is on us to call out these lies without constantly both siding it, without constantly sane-washing what Donald Trump says. So I think that, yes, it's going to be good for the digital media space. And actually, Trump's win made me rethink a lot about the Democratic Party, about my content, about where I need to go. So even though that was a terrible moment for America, I'm going to be honest, that was a formative moment for me. Seeing Trump win was, of course, a slap in the face. And I've spent every day since wondering where the Democratic Party went wrong. And of course, a lot of it's global inflation. I don't want to say that it was Kamala Harris's fault. A lot of it is just global inflation. Mm-hmm. But there has to be something wrong with the Democratic Party's strategies if Donald Trump can win again. And honestly, even if you look back to 2020, Biden's win wasn't even like a huge, it was kind of like a fluke, I'd say. Like if there was no COVID, or if Trump would have treated COVID better, those 12,000 votes in Georgia could have gone to Donald Trump. So I think we kind of misread 2020 as, oh, Biden's so popular. And then we also misread 2022 as abortion is the issue. Biden is so popular. And then heading into 2028, I think the Democratic strategy, I'm just going to say it. I think the Democratic Party right now gives off like weak vibes. Like I feel like we're just a weak party. And I don't know how to describe it, but when Trump sends out a post of Chris Christie eating a bunch of McDonald's or whatever. Did you see that? The Chris Christie McDonald's post? That is bullying. It's not cool, but like, it's funny. Most Americans think that is funny. I have bros who don't know anything about politics who think that's funny. And then when I see Democrats on social media saying like like they're freaking out about it, saying this is the worst thing to happen in months or whatever. It's like, we are now being the reactive, uncool party when Trump has a monopoly on these memes. And of course, it's not me running defense for Trump. This is me trying to analyze the Democratic Party's digital media strategy.
Adam, I agree with what you're saying, but why not just put up a picture of Donald Trump on the golf course? Did you see his haircut looking like the slob that he is? We got to stop being nice, right?
Yeah, we got to bully these people back, or else if we keep taking the high road, we're just going to there's norms only work if both sides are adhering to the norms. If one side is not adhering to the norms, then the other side is just wasting their time.
I want to ask you more about this because obviously you and I have a lot of respect for Michelle Obama, right? She's a wonderful woman, extremely intelligent. I get what she was trying to say when she said, when they go low, we go high. But guess what? That's not working in 2024. I'm not saying you have to stoop to Donald Trump's level and attack women on looks and all the other horrible things he does. Go back to your S-hole country. I mean, the list is too long for me to talk about. But it doesn't mean that we always have to be nice either. We should be calling out Donald Trump for who he is. And I also don't like the fact that ABC caved in and paid him $15 million for Stephanopoulos calling him a rapist when the judge presiding in the case characterized it as rape. But then I find it interesting that ABC gets an interview with him. I'd like to tend to think that's not a coincidence, but we just got to stop being nice, Adam. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but what Michelle Obama said, I have respect for her. I understand what she was trying to say. That doesn't work. That's not how you're going to win an election. Certainly not against a MAGA Republican.
I'm sick of being nice. I'm actually sick of being nice. I feel like we get walked on all the time, and our reaction is to be more nice. And it's not Michelle Obama's fault. What she said was good for the time. And what was it, 2008 or something like that, or 2012? What she said was good for the time. Yes, we should have respect for each other. She was trying to teach a lesson to Americans en masse about respecting the other side, or about being good people and sticking to your morals no matter what. But that doesn't apply anymore. That stopped applying a few years later when, honestly, when Trump started the birther conspiracy theory, we should have realized that, they're just going to keep going lower and lower and lower. And if we just stay at the same point, then they're going to hit new lows before we realize it. So, yeah, I think when they go low, we go high is an outdated strategy that at one point is a good quote. It's a great quote for, that point in time.
Right.
It's not working anymore. And it actually sometimes it makes me mad how Democrats get walked over all the time. And we're just the reactive party right now. Trump sometimes controls the narrative when it comes to trans issues or memes. I mean, as much as I hate the guy, his meme game works. It objectively works. And most Americans look at it differently than us. Most Americans look at Donald Trump as somebody who's fighting for them, but is rough around the edges and posts memes. And it's just an S poster online. We see the memes as fundamental to his political strategy in a way where he's a crazy madman. But you know what? That video where Donald Trump is dictating his tweets to his typewriter right there, or his writer, you know what I'm talking about? The video where he's dictating out his tweets. That made me rethink it a lot. Because I'm not going to lie, a few years back, I thought Trump was just run and gunning those tweets himself. It is a very intentional strategy on his part to say crazy things, to manipulate people. When he's typing in all caps in his True Social posts, it's not because he's sitting there raging. It's because he's trying to have maximum impact. And those are his versions of press releases. His True Social posts are just press releases over and over. And I think we need to start treating it like that. I get caught into this trap too, where Trump says something and I'm reactive. I was wondering that too when he did that Panama Canal post yesterday. I made a whole video about how terrible that is for our diplomatic relations. And before I made that, I was like, is he just trolling us? Is he just baiting us? And there is a chance he was, but it's still worth calling out. Yeah.
Very, very true. I guess this would be my final question for you, Adam, is this one. You look at the chaos just over the last week or two. Donald Trump isn't even in office yet. So my question to you is, what do you expect? And this is a loaded question. What are you expecting over the next 4 years? I don't think it's going to end well for Elon Musk. I don't think it's going to end well for a lot of people that are going to be in Donald Trump's administration, no matter who that might be. How do you think the next 4 years are going to roll? And how much chaos are we going to be talking about here? He's not even in office yet. Like I said, look at what's transpired here over the course of the last week with the possible government shutdown. What's the next 4 years going to look like, Adam?
Well, dude, if Trump were smart, he would just sit back and let Biden's policies play out, let the economy grow, take advantage or take credit for it. He would maybe cut a little deal with Putin and Netanyahu to pause the wars. So it seems like he's the anti-war, good economy president. If he were smart, he would do that. I think he can't help himself. And I think with Elon Musk's hand on the scale, his foot on the scale, he is trying to completely restructure our institutions, and it's going to get messy. It's going to get incredibly, incredibly messy. And we're going to be seeing like the funding bill that almost shut down the government last week. I think that's only a microcosm of what we're about to see over the next 4 years. I think the next 4 years are going to get increasingly crazy. And I wish I could even predict it, but I think there's going to be things that happen that neither you or I can even like foresee happening in a year. And a lot of it's going to be caused by Elon Musk and Donald Trump and RFK Jr., all of these people working together. And the onus is going to be on us, people like you and I, people listening to the show, the Midas Touch people, anybody in the digital media space, to be relentlessly calling these people out and showing that billionaires, isn't this like the richest cabinet in modern history? Billionaires are all making decisions for you, and they're making decisions that are antithetical to what you need when it comes to healthcare or Social Security.
Yep, very well said, Adam. Unfortunately, I agree with you. Who knows what's going to be happening here?
We're cooked, as Gen Zers say. We're cooked.
We are, unfortunately. I love it when you make appearances, by the way, on Newsmax. It's always usually 2, 3, 4 against 1, but you hold your own really well. And I have a lot of respect for you, Adam. Keep up the great work, my friend. I love what you're doing. One of the best follows on social media, and you have a great YouTube page, and I love what you do at Midas Touch. Adam, love to have you on again soon, my friend. Always appreciate the time, and we'll talk to you soon. Keep up the great work.
Thank you, brother. Let's do it a ton throughout the next few years. See you.
Love to do it again. Thanks, Adam. There you go. Adam Mockler, everybody. Really, really intelligent young man. Love what he does at Midas Touch. Love his takes. That guy should run for office someday. I'm telling you, him and David Hogg, there's the ticket, ladies and gentlemen. Adam's great, and we do appreciate him coming on. All right. So, a lot of crazy stuff happened over the weekend. And we're going to get to the AMFest. But before I do that, there's a lot of people on social media on the far right, and there's a lot of people in Donald Trump's orbit that are saying, well, how come Democrats didn't vote against Joe Biden's picks? I want you to listen to Trump's next press secretary. So her name is Caroline Levitt. She's done this show before. She makes her stupid appearance on Fox News. She's a right-wing talking head and an election denier. And I want you to listen to what she said, trying to make a comparison to Joe Biden's picks. Have a listen to this.
President Trump has put together a brilliant team. You heard Senator Rand Paul earlier in your show, Maria, saying that he couldn't dream of a better cabinet than the one that President Trump has put together. And 4 years ago, not a single Democrat voted against any one of Joe Biden's picks for his cabinet. Republicans need to follow suit. They need to get tough. They need to get smart. They need to confirm President Trump's picks. When you look at the exceptional qualifications of these individuals, there is no reason that a single Republican should vote against any one of them. Let's confirm them so President Trump can get to work, ushering his agenda through the federal government and also on Capitol Hill.
What? There's not a single reason. Not alcoholic abuse, sexual abuse, cheating, lying, conspiracy theories. Well, let me tell you something, Miss Levitt. You see, none of Joe Biden's picks were sexual abusers. None of Joe Biden's picks were conspiracy theories. None of Joe Biden's picks were election deniers. None of Joe Biden's picks were people that sent Venmo payments to underage girls to have sex with them and to receive drugs and give drugs to people that are underage. None of Joe Biden's picks did any of that stuff. And she says there's no reason for anybody to vote against some of these picks, even though Tulsi Gabbard is a Russian asset, fails to call out Assad, wants Russia to win the war in the Ukraine. Great pick, right? Robert F. Kennedy Jr., a guy who beheads whales, a guy who stages bear murders in Central Park, a guy who spreads medical misinformation constantly throughout his career. Don't even get me started with Pete Hegseth, so on and so forth. Yeah, there are plenty of reasons to vote against these people, just like there were plenty of reasons to vote against this stupid bill that the billionaire president Elon Musk put together, and that's why 38 Republicans voted against that as well. Caroline Levitt, you're an idiot, is what you are. Meanwhile, Donald Trump, speaking of idiots, Donald Trump was speaking at the AM Festival in Phoenix. And in that festival, in that speech, boy, he said a lot of crazy things. What a shocker, ladies and gentlemen. This is Donald Trump talking about childhood cancer. And then after this soundbite, I'll explain to you how ridiculous this is.
But did you ever hear numbers like that? Something's wrong. Something's wrong. Likewise, there's been a 25% increase in childhood cancer and a staggering increase in chronic diseases. So together we're going to make America healthy again. We're going to make America healthy. Something's happened. Something bad is happening.
Yeah, because Donald Trump certainly is the poster child of health. Oh, by the way, remember when the Republicans were blaming Democrats for why the cancer research money put forth and upwards of close to $200 million for children's cancer research, and they were blaming Democrats? Oh, well, it turns out it was Rand Paul who voted against it. Last I checked, Rand Paul is not a Democrat, and he's not a liberal. He's an a-hole is what he is. It was Rand Paul. So, Mr. President-elect orangutan, if you're going to talk about childhood cancer, maybe you should have a conversation with Rand Paul about that. That's scumbag. And the President Musk's comments are continuing to frustrate Donald Trump to the point where he actually talked about it at AMFest yesterday.
And he got over 2,000 units. That's a lot. And they flooded it with Starlink, and it was so good. It saved a lot of lives, so we want to thank him. But no, he's not going to be president, that I can tell you. And I'm safe. You know why? He can't be. He wasn't born in this country.
That's how, and all those idiots at the Klan meeting in Phoenix laughing. President Musk, we got to keep calling him President Musk. We know who's running the shots here, and the GOP knows it as well. It's President Musk, ladies and gentlemen, and Trump, it'll continue to drive him nuts. This is Donald Trump's, you hear about drugs and the drug problem we have in this country, which is a big one. I want you to listen to the orange orangutan and his, I guess you could call it, solving a serious drug problem in this country. This is the genius in what he plans to do.
We spend a lot of money, but it'll be a very small amount of money relatively. We're going to advertise how bad drugs are for you, how bad they are. They ruin your look, they ruin your face, they ruin your skin, and ruin your teeth. If you want to have horrible teeth, take a lot of fentanyl. If you want to have skin that looks so terrible, take fentanyl. We're going to show what these drugs are doing to you. Nobody's done that before, and we're going to do it. And that is, it's going to be like running a political campaign.
Yeah, there you go. This is your brain. This is your brain on drugs. That's what Donald Trump wants to do. Put an egg in a frying pan. This is your brain. This is your brain on drugs. If we're talking about skin, then is Donald Trump telling us that he's a drug addict? Because the guy wakes up in the morning and he's probably got the worst skin of anybody. Have you seen him? You see him without makeup? He puts on 8 layers of orange makeup, looking like the orange clown orangutan that he is. That's that's how you solve the problem. I'm sure our youth will care if you run commercials that say, this is your brain on drugs. Great job, Mr. President, Mr. President-elect. I'm sure that'll work. Another wonderful idea. And here's Donald Trump again, talking to the red meat of the Republican Party. Critical race theory and transgenders is like Republican porn. Have a listen to this.
We will get critical race theory and transgender insanity the hell out of our schools, and we're going to get it out of our schools very fast.
That's what they talk about. They're certainly not talking about healthcare, concepts of a plan. They're not talking about the economy. They're not talking about the real issues facing Americans. He talks about critical race theory, which is basically a non-existent fabrication. It's not happening in our public schools. And again, he talks about transgenders, another playbook from Nancy Mace. It's what the Republican Party stands for today. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. And here's Donald Trump again talking about how there's only 2 genders. I mean, the MAGA Republicans love it. They salivate on this stuff.
Under the Trump administration, it will be the official policy of the United States government that there are only 2 genders, male and female. Doesn't sound too complicated, does it?
It doesn't sound too Listen to those idiots clapping at that Klan rally. You listen to how crazy they are. You hear them cheering. You attack transgenders. You attack the gay community. You attack minorities. They cheer, and it's just like one of his campaign rallies. A bunch of Klan members that were out there for that thing. He did make a mistake, though. I respectfully disagree. Mr. President-elect. Yeah, there is the male and female gender. There's always the there's also the liable sexual abusing orange orangutan gender. He forgot about that one, respectfully. So right after the Matt Gaetz report came out today, listen to what Donald Trump had to say about Matt Gaetz yesterday.
A friend of mine who I haven't seen in a little while, Matt Gaetz, is here. Where's Matt? He's around here someplace. Matt Gaetz. He's got a big career set up. And just want to say hello to Matt. And
he's got a big career set up. The guy who literally paid an underage girl for sex and paid tens of thousands of dollars for drugs in a 3 to 4 year span in Congress, by the way. He's got a big career. Well, I hate to admit it, but I think, Mr. President-elect, you're probably right. Within the Republican Party, if you pay underage women for sex, it'll probably help your career. He just got a job at Newsmax. So maybe the president-elect is correct. I don't know. Maybe he is. Now, Kari Lake is 0 for 2 running. She's a complete clown with zero credibility. But that's what Donald Trump does. He tries to give people credibility like the Matt Gaetzes of the world, who pay women for underage for sex. Here's Donald Trump praising Kari Lake.
I think I see Kari Lake. Is that Kari Lake? Yes. Hi, Kari. Stand up, Kari. Fine. Fine. Good job. Worked hard. She's a good woman. And she's going to be doing something very big. Maybe bigger. It's a big one that you have. So good luck with it. You're going to do well. Going to turn that around like nobody ever saw before. So thank you very much for accepting it.
She's a good woman, a good, wholesome Christian woman. Yeah. Okay, Donnie, whatever you say. Oh boy. What a joke that entire AMFest was. You know, people like Rob Schneider up there. People like Jack Posobiec. By the way, Jack Posobiec, I'm not even going to play the cuts, but it's Jack Posobiec saying that Derek Chauvin did nothing wrong and he's an innocent man, because that really shocks me, ladies and gentlemen, that the MAGA Republicans and the white supremacist sympathizers out there, like the Jack Posobiec's of the world, would put somebody up on a pedestal who's a convicted murderer who killed a black man. What a shocker. Just like the Daniel Pennies of the world and the Kyle Rittenhouses of the world and the McCloskeys of the world. Jack Posobiec up on a stage being championed for saying nice things about a convicted murderer who was once a police officer who killed a black man. That's what this AMFest was all about. White supremacy, defending white murderers, attacking transgenders, attacking the gay community, attacking one side of the aisle, praising people like Matt Gaetz and Kari Lake and others. That's what this entire AMFest was. It is a joke. It's a laughingstock, but sadly, there are a percentage of people in this country that like that sort of stuff. There's a percentage of people in this country that think it's a good thing. The AMFest. Well, David Pollack will be joining us on the show tomorrow. He was at AMFest for the entire festival, so I know we are going to get into it tomorrow with David Pollack, who's going to be joining us, who was there. It's like a big Klan rally is what it is. All right, so here's what we are going to do. A guy by the name of Jack Maxey is going to be joining us next. So if you don't know who Jack Maxey is, he's the guy who leaked the Hunter Biden laptop story, but he's also a former Steve Bannon podcast co-host. He's been public about Steve Bannon recently. He's called Steve Bannon a coward. He said he owes 15 months of pay. So we're going to ask Jack a little bit about that and much, much more. Jack Maxey wants to talk about the Hunter Biden laptop as well. We're probably going to disagree on that, but I'm happy to have the conversation with him. All right, we're going to take some phone calls in hour number 2 as well, so sit tight. Jack Maxey is going to be joining us next. Yes, that's right, Steve Bannon's former podcast co-host. This is going to be entertaining. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with Jack right after this. And if you are just a new fan of the show or you've been following the show for a long time, here's what I ask of you. Please check out my new website. It's pushingthelimits.live. If you enjoy what we do and you want to help support what we do, because we are an independently owned show, We sell merchandise on the website. There's also a donate button right on the front page. Whatever you can afford, we greatly appreciate, and we appreciate your support. And, of course, we also appreciate the official gaming bar of the Pushing the Limits radio show. Of course, I'm talking about Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones. Great promotions, including the Pass the Puck contest during Vegas Golden Knights games, where you could win up to $500 in free slot play. Mondays and Wednesdays, yes, that's right, today's Monday, you're in luck. If you earn 300 points, you get a free bottle of wine. Check them out, Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones. Steve Bannon's former podcast co-host, Jack Maxey, is going to be joining us next. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. It's Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premium Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Who would have thought there'd be so many kids playing ice hockey in the desert? Jake Helps Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, founded by Gina Yousafzai 8 years ago, made it possible for families who can't afford the equipment and fees. Donate today at www.hockeyforkids.org and help us continue making a difference. Join us in supporting Jake Helps Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, where every kid gets a shot at the starting line. Just a reminder, our website is www.hockeyforkids.org.
Have you ever dreamed of having your own radio show or a podcast, but just didn't think it was possible? Well, dreams can come true. Radio U. Radio U is a 5-day course that'll teach you how to acquire your dream show. We'll teach you how to host, how to write commercial, how to interview, how to market, how to write a contract, and most importantly, how to monetize your dream radio show. You'll learn from some of the best in the business with over 75 years in broadcast experience. You'll learn from people like me. And the best part? Every single student will be live on the radio as part of the class. Plus, one student from each class will get their very own radio show. You'll be live on the air right here in Las Vegas. Radio U. The 5-day course is being offered at $699. For more information, give Radio U a call. 702-763-5024. That's 702-763-5024. Or check them out at RadioYOU101.com.
It's time to wake up and win the weekend. You're listening to the boss of the big ball. JP the Cat, giving you that grease. Join me every Saturday and Sunday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific time for the live action on Vegas Scoreboard Express on KSHP 107.1 FM and AM 1400. Dive into the game day with my in-depth analysis, expert predictions, and winning plays from the sharpest minds in sports betting. It's more than just placing bets. It's about securing wins. Head over to jbtheticket.com and be sure to tune in to KSHP this weekend from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific time to ride the winning wave with VSX. Tune in and get your money back from the sports book. All money, all sports, no bull. Missed the live show? Subscribe to Vegas Scoreboard Express on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, and wherever you enjoy your favorite podcasts and radio listening.
Complete Family Care in Henderson is open. No waiting, just walk in, see the doctor right away, have your blood and x-rays done on site, and so call them today at 702-747-7770. Fall allergy season is here. Get a 3-month allergy shot for $120. 3 months of allergy relief for just $120. Complete Family Care accepts all major insurances and Medicare, so visit us today at cfchenderson.com. That's cfchenderson.com, or call them at 702-747-7770. That's 747-7770.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Monday. Thank you so much for joining us. Man, Christmas a couple days away. Maybe you could buy that Trump Bible. That'd be a great Christmas present for some of your MAGA friends. Have them sign a copy. That won't be expensive at all. Or maybe the gold sneakers. I don't know. Maybe the Donald Trump trading cards. Get the rookie card. He was about 80 pounds lighter. Get the rookie card. I'll get it. Anyway, there's a lot of stuff that we are covering today, including Matt Gaetz and the report that went public. But the guy joining us on the show right now, I've actually been wanting to interview him for a long time. So his name is Jack Maxey. He's the guy who is known for leaking Hunter Biden's laptop, that story. But he's also Steve Bannon's former podcast co-host, and he was on social media going after Steve Bannon. We're certainly going to talk to him about that and a lot of other stories to talk about. Jack, I really do appreciate you taking the time to join us, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate you being here, Jack. All right, let's start with Steve Bannon. So you went public on social media. You called Steve Bannon a coward. You claimed that he hadn't paid you for 15 months of 24/7 work, which is horrible. I'm sorry to hear that. You said he begged for a pardon like a bitch and let a triple amputee veteran go down for a crime that he architected. And you also said the New York Attorney General will get all your help to end this, quote, fat fraud's freedom. It made some headlines. Tell me about this, why you decided to do this.
Because I think it's high time that people know the truth. I mean, I find it appalling that Donald Trump would choose to pardon Steve Bannon and let a triple amputee veteran with 2 small children go to jail where he is. And to me, that's just disgusting. I also feel it was disgusting that he lacked the honor of Jimmy Carter and didn't pardon all of the J6 protesters using the same exact model with the same exact carve-outs for violence. And the people who say that that's impossible, it's nonsense. Jimmy Carter's pardon for the deserters and those who missed movement, went AWOL, etc., covered as many as 160,000 individuals, 98% of whom were never charged.
I would imagine, Jack, working for somebody for 15 months and not getting paid, we're talking about a large sum of money here. Do you plan on filing a civil suit against Steve Bannon? Because I would imagine we're talking about a large sum of money. Tell me about that.
Well, I'm pretty much broke now, having spent all of my money trying to get the truth out. But I fully intend to provide the New York Attorney General, who is currently has charges against Steve for the same exact fraud, to give her all of my evidence, my fact witness. I was there when they rewrote the offering document for GoFundMe. And the big problem was that Brian thought, hey, we're going to raise $500 and I'm going to write an angry letter to the Treasury. And they raised $26 million. Immediately, Steve's friend, Andy Badalato, his best friend, who went to jail too, comes to Steve and is like, oh man, we found this rube in Florida who's got $26 million. We got to get our hooks into him. Literally, this is the discussion. So they bring Brian up to Washington, D.C., and because they're all so lazy, they asked me to rewrite the offering document. And the clear problem was Brian had said he would take no money. And so the rewriting of the offering document was to create an LLC or some sort of board of advisors that would make sure that this money just didn't go into someone's pocket. Mm-hmm. And they asked me to rewrite it, and it literally took me 30 seconds. Brian Colfaz is a great American veteran. He never knew that there would be this response. Now that's $26 million. He's going to devote his whole life to it and deserves to be fairly compensated. Check yes if you're still on board. No if you're not. Right? Simple.
Right.
These guys told me, hey, Maxey, why do you have to be a Boy Scout? We already figured out a way to pay Colfaz and nobody's going to know. Well, when I read the indictment, it was pretty clear what they did.
Oh, sure.
Colfaz gave Bannon $1 million as a marketing contract after the 26 had already been raised. Mm-hmm. And then Bannon kicked back $450,000 on a subcontract to Brian Colfaz. Now, if Brian was the architect of this fraud, wouldn't he have gotten $550 and Steve had gotten $450?
Right.
This guy's not a good guy.
No, that leads me to my next question. And by the way, I'm sorry that happened to you. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. You work for somebody for 15 months and you don't get paid. That's horrible. I hope you get every dollar you earned. I want to be clear on that. For people out there that don't know Steve Bannon as well as you do, you worked with the guy, you did a show with the guy. I see as an outsider looking in, I think he's a complete scumbag, sure, but I don't know him as close as you know him. What would you want to tell people out there, no matter what side of the aisle you're on? What was it like getting to know Steve Bannon and working with him? And what do you want people to know about Steve Bannon personally?
That he's completely untrustworthy. Regularly talks smack about every one of his guests, from Peter Navarro to Rudy Giuliani. The things he would say about Donald Trump when the cameras weren't running were offensive.
Can I ask you, what did he say? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but this is really important. Can you tell me, Jack, what were some of the things that Steve Bannon would say about Donald Trump when the mics were off?
He's an effing moron. That was pretty much his standard comment for everybody who wasn't Steve. For some reason, he never laid into me, but I've heard him say racist things to staff members, all kinds of things. He's a super bad guy.
Is he a guy that would use the N-word?
I never heard that, but I heard him abuse someone for their religious beliefs, called him a moron, didn't even know his own religion. There's plenty of things. I'm trying to remember Trish Regan. Here's a perfect example. Trish Regan got fired from Fox News because she'd just gotten off the phone from Steve and parroted the nonsense that he told her to say. And she's literally fired within the hour. Wow. This was the only time I ever saw Steve Bannon laugh uncontrollably. He thought this was the most hilarious thing he'd ever seen in his life. He was proud of it. And I'm sitting there in the studio with a guy next to me, and we're both going, wow, what a dirtbag. Why would you laugh at somebody that just lost their job and their livelihood? That's just awful. Why is it you think that he latched on to Donald Trump? Why is it? Does he only do this, Jack, for clicks and for money? I would imagine, and you can tell me if you disagree, a lot of the things he says he doesn't even believe. Do you think he just says these things just for clicks and attention and money? I think Steve's stock and trade is gossip. He was on the phone with Maggie Haberman and Jane Mayer from the New Yorker all the time. In fact, during the Kavanaugh hearings, I got dragged into the Kavanaugh hearings because I was a fraternity brother of Mike's at Yale. And the way I got dragged in was Steve asked me about it, and then he let Maggie Haberman listen in on our phone call without even telling me. The next day, I'm getting called by everyone in the Senate. Now, what's even crazier is when I deliver the laptop to Chuck Grassley and the GOP Judiciary Committee on July 8th of 21, they all had my phone number. They never called me back. They called me back once in January of 22, a guy named Josh Flynn Brown, to tell me, hey, Jack, you got to be a team player because we're definitely going to go after this in 22. I mean, this is nonsense.
Yeah. To kind of end the Steve Bannon conversation, and I know there's a lot of other topics that we're going to get to, do you think ultimately Steve Bannon ends back in prison? What do you think is the future to Steve Bannon here? And when was the last time you even talked to him? When was the last conversation you guys even had?
Last time I talked to him, I sent him a video that Miles Guo said, claiming that he controlled the Committee on the Present Danger through Steve Bannon. That would be Woolsey, former director of CIA, others. And Steve's like, oh, I already know about that. Everything's cool with Miles. I mean, here's another thing. Like, I spent months with Miles, and Miles actually called me trying to bribe me at Christmas time of 2020. There's a witness to this telephone call. Wow. And I was never interviewed by the FBI for We Build the Wall or Miles Guo, ever. Neither were the retired New York City detectives who provided him their 24/7 security, one of whom also worked for Steve. None of these guys were interviewed. So if I had to guess, my guess is that Steve is protected somehow, that Steve is probably a confidential informant of some sort, and that's why he slides. Now, when I go as a fact witness to the New York Attorney General, we'll know very clearly if his FBI protection extends to New York State, because I am a fact witness and I will bring documents and texts.
Wow. So I would imagine he has to be worried about that. And I'm glad that you're doing this. If you're just joining us, he is Jack Maxey, certainly known for leaking the Hunter Biden laptop story, a former coworker of Steve Bannon. claiming that Bannon owes him 15 months of work, not being paid for that. Also is going to cooperate, as he just said, with the New York Attorney General, as he quoted, to end this fat fraud's freedom, which I think most people are on your side on this one. I don't think Steve Bannon is a very well-liked guy, even from a lot of people on the right. All right. So, Jack, obviously, I wanted to get that story out, and I wanted to hear you talk about that. And I'm sorry that that happened to you. There's probably some topics that we don't agree on, which is totally fine. You were in the news a lot during that Hunter Biden laptop story. So my opinions are pretty simple on this. If Hunter Biden broke the law and there's evidence that, laws were broken, then hold people to account. I don't have a problem with that at all. My whole problem with this whole laptop story was, and I had Tina Peters on, she claimed she had everything in Hunter Biden's laptop. I certainly, you have a lot more credibility than her when it comes to this story. But my whole take was, okay, he was never working as a politician. He was never in the Biden administration. And people were saying that he had sex with underage kids and it was on the laptop and all this other stuff. Yeah, the laptop obviously existed, right? If people lied about that, that's wrong. But what's in the laptop that shows actual real evidence that Joe Biden committed any crimes? I guess that's my question.
Well, for example, the way I got into the Washington Post on June 16th of 21 was because Glenn Kessler, hat tip to Glenn Kessler, very honorable man, wrote a For Pinocchio article about how that meeting at Cafe Milano was just coincidental. And I sent Glenn, hey, respectfully, bro, here are emails proving that Hunter set up that meeting with his father more than 72 hours in advance.
Mm-hmm.
And he tells everybody, hey, my dad's going to be there. We're going to get photos with my dad, yada, yada, yada. Mm-hmm. And I remember the two people who were in that photograph, one's Kemez Rakashev, a guy who controls the uranium trade in Kazakhstan and also two major banks. The other guy was a guy named Masimov, who either was prime minister under Nazarbayev or head of their CIA. And so, yeah, that's a little disturbing that the vice president's son is hanging out with these characters. And furthermore, the very first trip that Hunter takes to with Burisma is to go to Kazakhstan for a birthday party for Devin Archer, where, I got to imagine these two cats going to a birthday party run by a Kazakhstani CIA was a full compromise game. And the purpose of that party was to circle up the last oil and gas leases in Kazakhstan for sale to CNOOC, Chinese National Offshore Oil Company. This is not a Shanghai listed firm. This is a state-run firm created in 1949 so that they could get oil. And Hunter is introduced to Burisma by the direction of someone, I'm going to gather CIA, because they end up owning the company later. Metabiota was created under USAID to cover the Ebola crisis in Sierra Leone. They completely screw it up. They're later accused of manslaughter for their negligence. But by the time Hunter shows up, they have been pushed up the hill, and they're now going to be running all the biolabs in Ukraine. I proved that. Black and Veatch was the one who managed it in terms of payroll, etc.
I hear you. I hear you. And, but my question is, while some of these accurately might be disturbing, as you put it, hanging out with some dirty characters, I hear you. But with that being said, the question still stands, where is the there evidence that Joe Biden broke the law? Because I hear from a lot of people on the right, they call him the Biden crime family, right? Where is the there in the laptop that Joe Biden committed any crimes? I think that's, in my opinion.
If you let me talk, I will tell you.
Sure.
First of all, the Teamsters were calling Joe Biden the big guy all the way back in documents from 2010. That letter, the memo of 10% for the big guy, was written by a guy named James Gilliar. He's a SAS MI6 operative. Okay. Just like the other guy sitting on the board of Burisma with Hunter, Cofer Black was CIA as well. So the fact of the matter is Hunter was being handheld by CIA the entire time. This is why there was no full investigation. And Hunter corresponds with one of his daughters around Christmas time, 2018-19. And she says, hey, Dad, I need a couple grand for my rent or they're going to kick me out. And he responds, listen, I hope you'll learn the value of a dollar, because I've paid every single bill in this family for the last 20 years, and Pop still requires that I kick back to him 50% of my take. I think that's pretty much a corrupt family. And
okay, can I ask you something about that, if I may?
Sure.
When he says 10% for the big guy, or that statement that doesn't there have to be a financial paper trail in order to prove that he received that money? Like, for example, if Hunter just says 10% for the big guy, that's not enough to charge or prosecute somebody. Where's the actual paper trail?
The deal never went through. You want something where
Right.
you can prove a crime for Joe Biden, and it's actually, I think, the most offensive thing. I can live with, like, hey, there was some intel reason that all this went down.
Mhm.
Hunter is accused by his sister-in-law of sexually abusing his 12-year-old niece, masturbating in front of her, smoking crack in front of her, watching pornography with her. There are multiple conversations that Hunter has with his father on this topic. And in fact, by his own parents' direction, Hunter's not allowed to be around any minor children. That is a felony for anybody under Delaware law. And the statute was written by Bo.
So Bo Biden made the claim that Hunter Biden was molesting a 12-year-old girl?
His sister Haley made the claim.
Okay.
Right? She
Okay.
never disputes it. In fact, the very first people that Rudy Giuliani and Bernie Kerik took the laptop to was the Delaware State Police Child Protective Unit.
What does that have to do with Joe Biden?
Because under Delaware state law, any individual who is aware of child abuse who does not go to the authorities has committed a felony.
So you're saying Joe Biden was aware of the fact that
Yes.
Hunter's sister had said that he had had sexual relations with a 12-year-old. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
And is there evidence to prove that Joe Biden knew that there was a member of his family that was accusing Hunter Biden of having sex with a 12-year-old? Do we know for sure?
It together on texts. It's in writing. Okay.
So-
This is not Hunter's therapist. In fact, hears about it and gets so disgusted she physically throws up and quits. She also committed a crime under Delaware law. Jill Biden, who was aware of it as a teacher, as an educator, has committed a serious felony. And same goes for Ashley Biden, a licensed social worker. So,
and where are these text messages?
But what about a child? What about a child?
Well, I agree with you. Anybody that allegedly has any sort of inappropriate physical contact with a child, I'm with you on that. Of course, I just want to know, where are these text messages, and who have they been verified by?
They've been verified by the Washington Post. They've been verified by the Daily Mail, both of whom hired outside consultants to verify the laptop, because I gave both of them copies. And with all these clowns talking about, oh my God, we've been just lied to about Joe Biden's dementia. In the laptop, Hunter has a conversation with Dr. Keith Abloh, medical doctor, about his dad's dementia. They've all had this for years.
Is Keith Abloh ever given Joe Biden a physical? Was that his personal doctor?
He's discussing the dementia with Hunter Biden. So
No. I understand, Jack. I get you, with all due respect. But if a doctor that's never given Joe Biden a physical makes an assumption that Joe Biden has dementia, does that mean he definitely has dementia? Or would that be just a doctor speaking off the record with a family member's son without giving Joe Biden a physical? That's all I'm saying. If somebody,
let's forget the dementia. Let's go back to the child. Hunter discusses the abuse allegations with his father. His father makes it impossible for Hunter to be around any minor children in the family. I think I could prove that in a court of law. So let's stop playing with the parse the words. How do we know nonsense?
Oh no, I'm not. I wouldn't say. I wouldn't say.
Biden has 4 houses that are worth millions of dollars on a senator's salary, right? How is it that Yi Jianming gave credit cards to the Biden family in $100,000 chunks, and they put falsified Social Security numbers on the documents from Cathay Bank?
There's no question that Hunter Biden took advantage of who his father is, but we're talking about, and there's no laws that say you can't take it, like, for example, the Burisma stuff. But I guess this would be my question to you. If there were any crimes that were actually committed, as you say, and there's evidence to back it up, then I want people to be held to account. The problem that I have, and I'm not necessarily talking about you, but I'm talking about a lot of people on the right, is they'll call Joe Biden the Biden crime family. I don't know if that's true or not, if Joe Biden committed any crimes or not, but you claim there are. But we never talk about, many on the right don't talk about the $2.1 billion that Jared Kushner received from the Saudis, or the $600 million that Ivanka Trump received in trademarks from China, who are actually working in Donald Trump's administration, or the fact that Donald Trump wanted Matt Gaetz to be the attorney general. The report just came out today. So while I understand what you're talking, and by the way, I'm not saying
don't follow me, because I've called out the Kushners, I've called out that deal,
Sure.
But let's talk about the $1.5 billion that Hunter got from Chairman Xi in the Bank of China for his Bohai Harvest Fund.
He received $1.5 billion.
$1.5 billion. And
where's
Hunter's
that
still
money?
10% owner of this. So is Devin Archer. So is James Whitey Bulger Jr.
Right.
And the entire thing was designed to capture strategic assets in the West, one of which was Heineken Motors in Detroit. It required CFIUS review. How did the guys in Beijing call up Hunter and his partners in emails and say, hey, our people in DC tell us everyone's going to sign on Tuesday afternoon, so let's set up the dinner and the closing dinner and get reservations for Detroit? How did they know
Why isn't James Comer and any of the House Republicans who have investigated the Biden family for years ever talk about this stuff and ever show evidence of this stuff? If they've been investigating it for years and they can't really come up with anything, all we have is a gun charge, right? And as I say all the time, it seems to me a lot of Republicans, the only gun they care about was Hunter Biden's gun that he illegally had for 13 days. And of course, the tax evasion, the tax issues. But if James Comer and the House Republicans were investigating the Biden crime family for years, why couldn't they come up with anything, Jack? I guess that's my question.
I'll explain that very clearly. This is the way that the Department of Justice, this is the way that the Congress pulls the wool over the American people's eyes. And I don't care if it's the Biden family or the Trump family or anyone else they decide they want to protect. They just simply don't call the witnesses who are fact witnesses. One of whom, who's been very helpful to me, was a U.S. intelligence asset who spent a decade or more in China working under cover of an NGO for Sino-American energy relations, was in the middle of every single one of Hunter's deals in China. And in 2018, a year before Hunter even lost his laptop, he went to Marco Rubio and briefed him about it. I've been to Congress with this man. He wants to testify and they won't ask him.
Why?
Because they're afraid of the deep state that they pretend to be opposed to. These people are all compromised.
Here you have Hunter Biden, who was willing to testify, and they don't call him in. I think that makes the Republicans
Hunter refused to testify at the end. He was not willing to testify.
Right.
And let's forget about the gun. Hunter, I have wire transfers that Hunter makes to human traffickers in Moscow and in Kiev for the women he's knocking around in the United States. There are hundreds of numbers and contacts for his drug dealers from one coast to the other. I took all of this to the American sheriffs and the Florida Bureau of Investigation in the summer of 22, briefed them on everything with the hope that, hey, if the feds aren't going to go after him, at least maybe we could stop some human trafficking and drug dealing. You know, we can all agree those are criminal acts, right?
Has James Comer ever reached out? Has James Comer ever reached out to you?
Not a single time.
Why do you think that is?
Because he doesn't want the truth.
You don't think James Comer, if he had the opportunity, would want to get the Biden crime family, if there, as he puts it, if there was evidence?
Not if it means that he gets crosswise with CIA. And also, let's be very clear. Mossad took down Hunter in a sophisticated honey trap in 2018. And you're going to go, well, how can you prove that, Jack? Because Mossad, inside the United States, threw me in a chair, told me to shut up.
Let me ask you this. As you know, Joe Biden's not going to be in office anymore. Hunter Biden is probably going to go away to an extent, I would imagine. You have the incoming administration with Donald Trump, who I understand is you're not much of a fan of, neither am I. Let's talk about the future. What are your thoughts on the people that are going to be working in Donald Trump's administration? What are your thoughts on Elon Musk? What are your thoughts on Tulsi Gabbard, who I believe is a Russian asset? What are your thoughts on Kash Patel, who I think is a nutcase, along with Robert F. Kennedy Jr.? I understand you have your opinions and
I'll give
evidence.
you my opinions, and they're all based on facts. I love how you oppose my, factual.
I didn't say no. I didn't say I oppose. No. I didn't. Hold on.
Let's just be real. Let's be fair.
Hold on. I didn't say I oppose.
Answer your questions. Okay.
Okay, but hold on. Okay, but hold on. Before we get to that, Jack, I didn't say I oppose some of the stuff you were saying. I do have a problem with when you say Joe Biden has dementia and you say that Hunter Biden had a conversation with a doctor who never gave Joe Biden a physical, who doesn't know anything about his medical history, but somehow that means Joe Biden has dementia. I think that's a right-wing talking point, and that's where I get frustrated. I get frustrated.
You know what happened to that doctor? Within 2 months of Hunter losing the laptop, and he used to be on Fox News, MSNBC, the whole 9 yards. They find 2 women who 10 years before said he used the color of his medical degree to take sexual advantage of them. That guy lost his license to practice.
So he has no credibility.
3.5 weeks.
Right.
So you're making my point. He has credibility or not. You show me a doctor in America who lost his license in 3.5 weeks. Show me.
I have no idea whether that had any correlation. All I'm simply saying is, who cares what a random doctor says who has never given Joe Biden a physical? Well, you're not a doctor. I'm not a doctor. Is Joe Biden old? Yes. Does he have gaffes? Yes. But the idea that somehow he's had dementia for a long time, to me, is not credible.
Hunter responds to the doctor who says, hey, how are you going to do an interview of your dad? I mean, how's his recall these days with the dementia and everything? Hunter says, not very good, but I'll do all the talking. Okay, so is Hunter a liar? I guess everyone's a liar if it doesn't meet your,
So when he says my father is not doing good, that means he has dementia? Could it mean maybe he's just getting old?
How's his recall because of the dementia? Not very good.
Okay, so his recall isn't very good. You're saying
because of the dementia. Let's use real English language. How's his recall because of the dementia?
Right. Hunter's not saying
very good.
So the doctor said that
his recall because he's elderly.
So the doctor claimed that he had dementia, and Hunter Biden
told the doctor he had dementia. This was Hunter's doctor. Just like Hunter's sister-in-law told Hunter's therapist that he was abusing a little girl, and she threw up and quit.
Mm-hmm. I understand that, but at the same time, I'm not a doctor. You're not a doctor. And I know that you're laughing at that, but I mean,
let's go to the next question, because this is obviously a black hole for you.
No, it's not a black hole. I actually want real doctors who know Joe Biden's medical history, whether they say whether he has dementia or not somebody who worked for Steve Bannon, with all due respect, and not somebody with no medical credentials. It's not a black hole. It's not a black hole.
Funny. People warned me that you were kind of like a showman.
I'm not a showman. I'm treating you.
You contacted me a few days ago and said, "Oh, don't believe those people. I have restraining orders on them." And I said, "Okay."
What does that have to do? What does that have to do with this conversation?
I'm not integrity. This is what it has to do with.
Oh, so I don't have integrity because I
said it has to do with your integrity.
Okay, I'm trying to have a respectful conversation.
It has to do with dementia.
Jack, I'm trying to have a respectful conversation with you. I appreciate you coming on. I'm not. Excuse me. I'm not making it personal with you. You have trolls on social media that say things about you that are not true. I have trolls on social media that say things about me that are not true. That has no relevance in this conversation. Doesn't mean
how can I trust a man who worked for Steve Bannon? What is that kind of thing? Where does that come from?
Well, you did.
Am I a liar? Are you telling me that I'm a liar and untrustworthy?
Did I call you a liar?
What was the implication? Tell me what the implication was.
Did I call you a liar? I didn't do that. You worked with a guy who's an awful human being. I feel bad for you that you didn't get paid. You did stick around for a long time.
You can't trust what I say because I worked for him.
I can't trust what you say because you worked for him. I'm not saying I can't trust what you say. I'm just saying that you did work for a convicted felon who's an awful human being. He screwed you over.
Convicted, by the way. So you're again not.
So he went to jail and he wasn't. So he went to jail and he wasn't convicted. Is that what you're saying, Jack?
That was a misdemeanor.
Okay, but he was
Congress for his hearing.
You're right. I called him a felon, which is inaccurate, but he did get convicted and he did go to jail. I mean, am I wrong? I mean, I don't know why you're arguing with me over that.
He did 3 months at the same place that Martha Stewart did 6 months, and I never heard her whine once. I mean, why don't we get back to questioning me instead of questioning my integrity? Because I can play this game both ways, however you want.
I mean, you were just questioning my integrity. I don't know why. I'm not making it personal.
Because you said, how can I trust the words of a man who worked for Steve Bannon?
I never said that. I never said, how could I trust the words of a man who worked for Steve Bannon? I do find
I won't have any more arguments about your integrity. Ask me questions.
I think
answer them.
Yeah,
you have a whole other show where you blow me out to your heart's content.
I don't know what you're talking about.
All your text messages.
I'll probably never bring up your name ever again. What are you talking about? I appreciate you coming on the show.
I came on here to be interviewed, not to have my integrity questioned.
Okay. Why are you so defensive? What is wrong with you? Why are you so defensive? I haven't attacked you. I've treated you with respect. Why are you so tit for tat defensive?
We'll let the audience decide.
Well, geez, thank you. Why don't you? Excuse me?
Why don't you ask me the questions you have and I will answer them?
Okay, that's very nice. That's what I was trying to do until you made it personal with me. Why don't you ever consistently talk about Donald Trump? Why don't you ever, when you were
Are you not paying attention? I call him out every day. He's a liar. I don't think he's going to release the JFK tapes. I don't think he's going to release the 9/11. I think it's obscene that he lied about his phone call with the Mexican president. I think it's obscene that he's talking about invading Panama and claims we sold it for $1 when that has nothing to do with the treaty. So
why didn't you talk about these topics when you were Steve Bannon's co-host? I'm just curious why you didn't go after Donald Trump more, and why didn't you call out what took place on January 6th? Why didn't you call out the lies on the 2020 election when you were Steve Bannon's co-host? Why didn't you do that? You talked a lot about Hunter Biden's laptop.
Let me tell you something. You don't know what I know.
I'm asking you. Why didn't you do it on the podcast?
I pulled my entire group from the investigation of the election because I could see that it was filled with FBI and people who are feeding bad information. I've named their names, right? Mike Tremarco, General Flynn, confirmed FBI asset, Patrick Byrne. What more do you want from me, bro?
I want the same consistency, sir, with all due respect. You've made a living.
I gave that consistency at the time, and I told everyone why I was no longer going to participate.
So on Steve Bannon's podcast, you held Donald Trump responsible for January 6th and the lies. Did you say that Donald Trump lost the 2020 election consistently when you were co-hosting a podcast with Steve Bannon, or were you talking about Hunter Biden's laptop?
Why am I responsible for talking about the things that I'm not an expert on?
Sure. So you have to be an expert to say that Donald Trump lost the 2020 election. You have
very clearly many times, and I got hammered for it. If you've done your research, that Donald Trump lost the election.
I rarely ever heard you talk about that on the Steve Bannon podcast.
Why don't you go see the Eric Metaxas interview from February of 21, where I say just that. Okay.
Okay. Have you said that on the Steve Bannon podcast that Donald Trump unequivocally lost
after he became terrified after the loss of the election? I wasn't even allowed in the studio for most of December because
I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry to hear that. But that wasn't.
You want to hear my answers, or do you want to just make assumptions?
The question wasn't what you did afterwards. The question was, when you were doing the Steve Bannon podcast, did you ever say that Donald Trump is a liar? He lost the 2020 election and the Democrats didn't steal it. I'm asking you a very direct question. Have you ever said that?
I believe somebody stole it. I don't believe that election was fair. Not at all.
That's not my question. Why didn't you ever say that on the podcast? You never said that Donald Trump's a liar. He never won the 2020 election. You talk constantly about the Biden crime family and the Hunter Biden laptop. Okay, no problem. I'm happy to have that conversation with you, which we have. My question to you is, on the Steve Bannon podcast, you never called out Donald Trump.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. You're working for Hershey's, right? You got to go out and say these chocolate bars taste like crap?
Well, we're talking about integrity, right? If Hershey's was terrible and they were paying me, I would quit.
When did I quit? Within a month and like a week.
I'm not asking you. Here's my point, Jack. Okay. I'm not trying to make this personal. Here's my point that I'm trying to make.
You're making it personal, bro. You're making it personal.
There goes Mr. Sensitive again. I'm trying to have an honest conversation.
I'm a man. You want to make it personal? I'll definitely man up with you anytime.
All right. I don't want to go down that road with you, man. There's a reason why I'm bringing this up, and hopefully you'll understand why, and I'll try to explain it to you best I can in 20 seconds.
Look,
Okay?
let's be
The reason
clear.
why I'm trying, excuse me, sir.
You can stop right now.
Excuse me,
I
sir.
do not believe Donald Trump has integrity. I do not believe that Donald Trump has
appreciate that. That wasn't my question, though. I appreciate you saying that.
The man with dementia.
Okay. First of all, there you go with the dementia nonsense.
You're not a diarrhea burrito.
Okay.
And I want to know if I'm
There you go again, pivoting.
with the burrito.
There you go again, pivoting to Joe Biden and dementia. The reason why I'm bringing this up, you just made my point for me. Thank you, Jack. The entire time you were doing a podcast with Steve Bannon, after January 6th, you never called out Donald Trump for lying because he claimed the election was stolen. You never uttered that on the Steve Bannon podcast once, but your entire career.
Look at the podcast and see how many days I was on after January 6th.
Okay. Did you ever bring that up? Did you ever call him out for lying? And in the 2016 election, saying that the election was going to be stolen and that he was lying and setting people up for that as well? Did you ever bring up any of that stuff on the Steve Bannon podcast?
My oath is not to Donald Trump, not to Steve Bannon, certainly not to, someone like you. My oath is to the Constitution of the United States of America. I've kept that oath. So if you want to continue to question me and my honor, have at it. But then this isn't an interview. This is a little attack dog baloney show with a small man who thinks that they can abuse a real man.
I'm not trying to. That's a really weird characterization of calling you a small.
I'm looking at you, bro. I can see who you are.
Okay. So you're just going to be a jerk, dude. Is that what it is? You're just going to insult me and be a jerk. Is that what it is with you, Jack? No wonder why you're broke. Want to get personal? No wonder why you're broke. You're a never was. You're a never was. You're broke. Go after Steve Bannon's money. You worked for a douchebag because I think you're a douchebag. What do you think about that? You want to make it personal with me? You want to call me a little man? That's why you're broke. You're a talentless dweeb on X trying to make a name for yourself. Your entire life is about Hunter Biden's laptop. That's what you're known for. And you meet people in public and you talk about, ooh, I'm the one who broke the laptop story. You called Joe Biden, Mr. Dementia. I think you're a right-wing buffoon is what you are. You associated yourself with Steve Bannon. I'm not a little man. You have zero credibility. Zero. Let me repeat, Jack. You have. What do you mean stand up? Screw you. I'm not going to stand. Why don't you stand up? Screw you. You have no credibility. You have no credibility at all. You are a moron. So go ahead and spend the rest of your life.
I'm just going to sit here and laugh.
Go ahead and spend the rest of your life talking about Hunter Biden's laptop. You're a right-wing biased buffoon, and I hope Steve Bannon sues you. You're a right-wing biased buffoon.
Because you have integrity.
You have zero credibility. What do you mean stand up? You have zero credibility.
You said you were a little man. You said that was just a fact, bro. You're
What's
a little man.
You can't even spell the word fact, you bozo. All you do your whole life.
Where'd you go to college? Where'd you go to college?
Excuse me. Sure, I'll answer your question. Would you like to be quiet? I'll answer your question about my education, and I'll also add I never did a podcast with a guy by the name of Steve Bannon, and then cried. Would you like me to answer? I have a college degree in communications from Central Connecticut State University. I've been in radio for 20 years, and you know what? Something else is on my resume. I never worked Yale. Okay, Yale. Okay, but I have a college degree, and you could try to attack my credibility. I've been doing radio for 20 years, and I never worked with a guy named Steve Bannon in my whole career wanting attention. Oh, I have the contents in Hunter Biden's laptop, and Joe Biden has dementia. Your entire career is based on faulty information, and you are a fraud, is what you are, Jack. You are a fraud. What are you known for in your career? What are you known for? What are you known? Hey, Jack. Hey, big boy. What are you known for in your career? Oh, that's the guy that released the Hunter Biden laptop. What have you done to help people in society?
Listen. Has anybody ever sued me for defamation? Have I had to take out restraining orders on anybody like you have?
Excuse me? I never sued anybody from defamation. And let me just add something to that, since you want to get personal with me because you're an idiot. When people send people death threats, you see, Jack, in my life, I've had people send me death threats. See, the problem is, just like the Hunter Biden laptop, you have no idea what you're talking about. I've had people in my life that have given me death threats. And I take that very seriously. So, for example, Jack, I'll speak slowly so an idiot like a slob like you could understand. When somebody sends me a death threat, I contact law enforcement. Hey, dummy. Why don't you listen? Because I'll educate you. When somebody sends somebody a death threat, I take that seriously and I contact the authorities and I do file a restraining order against somebody. Do you think that's wrong, Jack? Do you think that's bad? You want to attack me for filing a restraining order on somebody that sent me a death threat? You're an idiot, okay? Get this idiot off my show. I don't even want to waste another minute with you, you freaking idiot. No wonder why that guy worked with Steve Bannon. No wonder why. The guy has no credibility. Joe Biden has Alzheimer's. You know, I was hoping that interview didn't go down that path, because my goal in that interview, because he wanted to talk about the Hunter Biden laptop, by the way, I gave him the opportunity to do so. It's not really something I wanted to talk about. My goal in that interview was to give him the opportunity to talk about Steve Bannon, which he did, and I treated him with respect. But you see, when he tried to go after me personally, that doesn't work on this show. There's a reason why that guy is broke, because he's a talentless idiot. That's why. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll take your phone calls. 702-221-7283. Again, that number to call is 702-221-7283. Your thoughts on that very fiery interview. We'll take a break. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premier Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Who would have thought there'd be so many kids playing ice hockey in the desert? Jake Helps Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, founded by Gina Yusufzai 8 years ago, made it possible for families who can't afford the equipment and fees. Donate today at www.hockeyforkids.org and help us continue making a difference. Join us in supporting Jake Helps Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, where every kid gets a shot at the starting line. Just a reminder, our website is www.hockeyforkids.org.
It's time to wake up and win the weekend. You're listening to the boss of the big ball. JP the Cat, giving you that grease. Join me every Saturday and Sunday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific time for the live action on Vegas Scoreboard Express on KSHP 107.1 FM and AM 1400. Dive into the game day with my in-depth analysis, expert predictions, and winning plays from the sharpest minds in sports betting. It's more than just placing bets. It's about securing wins. Head over to jptheticket.com and be sure to tune in to KSHP this weekend from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific time to ride the winning wave with VSX. Tune in and get your money back from the sports book. All money, all sports, no bull. Missed the live show? Subscribe to Vegas Scoreboard Express on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, and wherever you enjoy your favorite podcasts and radio listening.
Have you ever dreamed of having your own radio show or a podcast, but just didn't think it was possible? Well, dreams can come true. Radio U. Radio U is a 5-day course that'll teach you how to acquire your dream show. We'll teach you how to host, how to write commercial, how to interview, how to market, how to write a contract, and most importantly, how to monetize your dream radio show. You'll learn from some of the best in the business with over 75 years in broadcast experience. You'll learn from people like me. And the best part? Every single student will be live on the radio as part of the class. Plus, one student from each class will get their very own radio show. You'll be live on the air right here in Las Vegas. Radio U. The 5-day course is being offered at $699. For more information, give Radio U a call. 702-763-5024. That's 702-763-5024. Or check them out at RadioYOU101.com.
All right, welcome back. Pushing the limits on a very fiery Monday. Someone's gonna personally try to insult me and offend me on my own show. It usually doesn't end very well for them. There's a reason why that guy Jack self-described as broke, because he's a talentless clown. That's why. He wants to constantly talk about Hunter Biden's laptop, but then, by the way, he said Joe Biden has Alzheimer's, another moronic thing to say. And then when I questioned him on Donald Trump, never on Steve Bannon's podcast did he ever say that Trump lied and the election wasn't stolen. So I caught him on that one, but yet he wants to talk about Hunter Biden's laptop all day. And then he makes a weird Hershey's reference. If you were getting paid by Hershey's and the chocolate was terrible, would you say it on the air? Yeah, I actually would. I'd be honest with my listeners. You dope. Anyway, your thoughts on that clown? We just, if you missed it, you missed a lot. We had Jack Maxey on. He's the guy that's known for leaking the Hunter Biden laptop. That's what his whole career is. By the way, he doesn't even have a career now. He just has his X page. Steve Bannon's former podcaster, and he wants to tell everybody that he has all this integrity, and I don't. He called me little man, and then he stood up, which was also very bizarre. I should have asked him to take his shirt off. I'm sure that would have been very sexy. We're taking your calls, 702-221-7283. Let's go to Darlene. Darlene is first up on PTL. What's up, Darlene?
Brian, oh my goodness. First of all, I'm going to say shame on you, Brian. And the reason I say that, you took too much crap from that idiot. And Jack, they misspelled your name on the show. It should have been Jack Ass. And I want to say something else. You want to talk about dementia? I allegedly say, I think you've got the dementia.
I agree.
I have never seen such an ugly, hateful person in all my life.
Yeah.
That treated Brian with disrespect.
Darlene, I appreciate your comments. I tried to treat him with respect. I tried really hard. I was very patient with him, even after he personally attacked me. But there's only so much that I can take. But that'll be fun to go back and listen to, and we'll post that on YouTube today. 702-221-7283. Who's next here? We have Sherry. Sherry's next. What's up, Sherry?
Hi, Brian.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, I actually just turned you on. I wish I had something brilliant to say, but I don't. I just wanted to say that you did a wonderful job putting that guy down. Who was that?
Complete idiot. His name is Jack Maxey. I'm not going to call him that. There's some people on social media that have nicknames for him. I'm not going to do that. But his name is Jack Maxey. He's been going after Steve Bannon because he claims, and by the way, I don't believe a word this guy says, but he's claiming that, not that I'm going to defend Steve Bannon, but he's claiming that Steve Bannon owes him 15 months of back pay. There should be a lot of evidence to be able to prove that in a courtroom. But this is the guy, all he wants to talk about is the Biden crime family and the Hunter Biden laptop, but never once on Steve Bannon's show as his co-host did he ever call out Donald Trump for lying about the 2020 election. So I got him there.
Yeah, I can't believe that. I can't believe they're still talking about Hunter Biden. I can't believe
this
all
guy.
of
This guy has no money. He has no job. Self-admitted on this show, by the way. He said he's broke. Geez, I wonder why. Maybe because he's a talentless right-wing buffoon. Maybe that's why. Sherry, thank you so much for the phone call. I appreciate you. One phone line open at 702-221-7283. We just had Steve Bannon's former podcast co-host join us on the show. Didn't go very well for him. Let's go to Courtney. Courtney is next up on PTL. What's up, Courtney?
Hey, how you doing from Brooklyn? Merry Christmas, Brian.
Merry Christmas. What'd you think of that interview?
Oh, what a freaking idiot. I think that you put up with him. I have to agree with the First Lady. You put up with him for way, way too long. He's tweeting on Twitter about it now. He's a complete moron.
Yeah, I don't care. I don't care what he says. I don't care what he says on Twitter.
The Matt Gaetz report makes that Hunter Biden look like a choir boy. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That whole thing is ridiculous.
It is. And you know what? I don't care what Jack says on social media because I'm going to post that interview and it'll be a lot of fun and we'll have to wait and see what people think about it. But yeah, that guy was Looney Tunes. That's for sure. Thank you for the call. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Yeah, take care. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Tom. Tom is next on PTL. What's up, Tom?
Tom from Minnesota, Brian, and I reiterate what everybody else is saying here. You did a fantastic job. My head was ready to explode. I was on the Facebook thread here talking to a lot of people here. And one of the people on there, I'll mention her name because she doesn't want to come on and talk to you, but she likes to lash out at you. Her name is Juanita Clemens, and she says that, yeah, Brian, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know Biden has dementia. I just pointed out to her, you got to have evidence. If I told her mom had dementia without evidence, then that would be wrong. And that's exactly what you did. And the other point I want to make was the Republicans, if they had evidence of all that he said that Hunter Biden did, they would crucify him with that evidence.
By the way, speaking of a moron, Jack just went on social media. This is how stupid this guy is. He says, I just had an outstanding and revelatory interview with this little fellow. Let's see if he has courage to run it. By the way, it's not courage to run it. It was a live show, and I guarantee you I'm going to be posting and double posting this interview. But here's the funny part. Everyone who warned me was on point. He might have had a couple trolls that don't like me. And then he put up the wrong person up there, some Twitter account that's not even me. He's calling me a little person. He doesn't even know who I am. He doesn't even put up the right Twitter account. This guy is so stupid. He's so dumb. But anyway, Tom, I appreciate the call. Hey, if you're going to make fun of me, at least tag the right Twitter page, right? I mean, that's not too hard to do that, right?
Yeah,
What a dumbass. What a dumbass.
You gave him a platform, and he just threw it away.
Well, sometimes, I gave him the opportunity to talk about Steve Bannon, and you're right, he did throw it away with his stupidity about the Hunter Biden laptop, but won't talk about Donald Trump lying about the 2020 election. In fact, defends it. Well, there's evidence. Oh, Jesus, what an idiot. You know what? He's got a lot in common with Steve Bannon. I'm surprised that they don't still do a show together. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Al is next up on PTL. Hello, Al.
Hey, how you doing? I listened to the interview, and the guy was trying to tell you that a doctor, maybe the guy doesn't have his credentials anymore, but he knows the family. And my question to you is, first of all, if you want direct proof from Joe Biden's doctor that he has dementia, that's personal information. You're never going to get that.
So
I think
that's
no. Hey,
true.
listen,
That's not true.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, first of all, we demand health records from every president. I think they should all be to the public. The man who you voted for, Donald Trump, refuses to release his health records. He made a trip to Walter Reed Medical Facility when he was president, never told anybody why. Why don't you have a problem with that Donald Trump won't release his medical records, even though he claims he will, and that he took that trip to Walter Reed and nobody ever claimed why?
Okay,
Yet you want to obsess.
I'm talking about Joe Biden.
Yeah, I know that, but you see, it shows that you're a hypocrite.
Where are his medical records?
It shows that you are a hypocrite. Now, let's talk about dementia for a moment. You're not a doctor. I'm not a doctor. The point that I am trying to make is this. This moron, Jack Maxey, who you seem to give credibility to, makes a claim. And by the way, I've never seen these text messages. I don't even know whether they're true or not. And quite frankly, I don't believe anything this guy Jack says. But let's just assume for a moment he's telling the truth. I'll assume that for argument's sake, Al, okay? Let's assume that a random doctor, because that's what this is, we don't know what this doctor specializes in. He could be a dentist for all I know. This random doctor claims, excuse me.
I thought he was Hunter Biden's doctor.
Okay, random doctor, we have no idea what he specializes in, claims that Joe Biden has dementia. So what? There are a lot of kooky people, doctors. Let's just say we get, I'll make it in terms that maybe you'll agree with me. Maybe, although I doubt it. Let's just say a far-right, left-wing radical doctor makes a claim that doesn't know anything about Donald Trump's medical history, makes a claim that Donald Trump has Alzheimer's. Would you be giving that doctor credibility on this show right now? Of course you wouldn't, Al. Of course you wouldn't. And you know what? I would be on your side. Go ahead.
Okay. Let me tell you something. There's a preponderance of people who claim that he has dementia.
Okay, so let's go with that. Let's go with that. Let's hold on, Al. Let's go with that statement. Al just said there's, quote, a preponderance of people that think that Joe Biden has Alzheimer's. There's also a preponderance of people that think Donald Trump won the 2020 election. There's a preponderance of people that think January 6th was an inside job. There's a preponderance of people that are idiots. I listen to actual real experts. And in this case, it would be somebody who knows Joe Biden's actual medical history. That's actually what I would listen to, Al. So I don't care about a preponderance of people. There's a preponderance of people that think that the earth is flat. Al, are you with me on that? Can we agree on that?
No, I'm listening to you, but it doesn't hold up.
What doesn't hold up? What doesn't hold up?
He does not have dementia.
What doesn't hold up? What? Explain to me. What doesn't hold up? What do you mean?
So you're saying it doesn't connect. Okay, let me just ask you one question.
What doesn't connect? I don't understand what you're saying. What doesn't connect?
Do you have evidence that Biden does not have dementia? Do you have evidence of that?
You're the one making the claim that he does. I don't have to show evidence that he doesn't. What's wrong with you?
You're a joke. Your show is a joke.
My show is a joke. Thank you for the ad hominem attacks, Al. Another dumbass calling into the show. It always ends with that, right? Same thing that Jack did to me. Towards the end of the interview, he started the ad hominem attacks on me. If you're going to do that to me, I'll give it to you tenfold. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Lisa. Lisa is next up on PTL. What's up, Lisa?
Hey, Brian. Oh, my God, so much to unpack with this whole thing. So I'm an attorney, and it was hearsay upon hearsay upon hearsay. There was, no credence to any of that. It was just, well, somebody told me this, and he wrote an email to him, and this and this and this. And it's just, that's all these people have. I mean, they just spread these lies, and then they begin to believe it, and then they just morph into something else. And then the best part was when he started asking you about your education. And what did he say? He went to Yale or something?
I don't know. I don't believe a word this guy says. He's an absolute buffoon. And he thinks somehow I'm not going to post that interview. I can't wait. I'm giggling. I can't wait to post that interview.
Too.
The guy is such a jackass. I can't wait for my people to post that on social media. I'm sorry, but he's a complete moron. He claimed that Joe Biden has dementia. When asked about why James Comey never hit him up, I'll tell you why. Not that James Comey or Comer, I'm sorry. Am I saying Comey? James Comer, I apologize. Not that Comer is the most credible person on the planet, but there's a reason why they haven't hit up Jack Maxey, because he has zero credibility. Even a guy like James Comer doesn't even want to ask Jack Maxey for help. This is the guy who was co-hosting a show with Steve Bannon, and now he's crying that he needs to get paid because he's broke. This guy's pathetic. He's pathetic.
Well, yeah. It's exactly the same when people go and work for Trump, and then they say, well, he stiffed me. Well, look what you're doing. Look who you're working for. It's inevitable to get your hands up your ass or out of your asses and just move on. So anyway, great interview. Just want to let you know.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Mark. Mark is next up on PTL. What's up, Mark?
Hey, Brian. How are you?
Good. What's on your mind?
To all you MAGA out there, when you claim that Biden has dementia, Biden has this, by January 20th, Biden is out of office. And let's also mention that, remember Trump was campaigning? He was in Pennsylvania, and he thanked everybody in North Carolina because that's where he thought he was. I can name gaffe after gaffe after gaffe that Trump wasn't able to pronounce words. He stumbled trying to get into a garbage truck. We can go over the whole thing about what Trump has done. But I want to talk about Jack. And you know as well as I do, Brian, that if Jack was paid by Steve Bannon, he would not be going around exposing Bannon for who we already know who he is.
Right.
He would be cuddling up with Bannon. He would still be on the podcast. And I was hoping you would mention to Jack, just you missed one thing, Brian, that he's going to be heading to New York for a criminal trial on taking all that money for Build the Wall.
Yeah.
He siphoned off all that money and spent it on himself. That's what he's actually going to go to criminal court for a trial.
Well, I'll definitely post that, Mark. I was not aware of that, so I will definitely post that on social media because I was unaware. Don't worry, we'll expose him. We'll post everything, and I appreciate that information, Mark. I wanted to have this guy on to talk about Steve Bannon. He's the one who hit me up and said, hey, could I talk about Hunter Biden's laptop? I'm like, oh, boy, go ahead, but here we go. I was very respectful to him until he decided to be disrespectful to me, and I will not tolerate that, especially from a broke, talentless idiot who has no job in media and all he does is tweet all day. 702-221-7283. We have somebody by the name of Jack, but he's Good Jack. Good Jack, hello, welcome to the show.
Brian, prove that Biden don't have dementia. This is how these people, MAGA, listen, when Trump says he loves the uneducated, he's not talking about me. He's not talking about Brian. Who do you think he's talking about? Like, it's unbelievable. And Brian, I was in the medical field for 30 years. Donald Trump is a 78-year-old. He has a history. He has a family history of dementia.
Yeah, yes.
These people just voted this guy into office.
Yeah.
They're talking about Joe Biden, he's lost a little off his fastball. I'll admit that. But I mean, the guy's at the end of his 40-year term. He's not in office anymore. Like, I don't understand what their point is by pointing this out.
They have no credibility at all. The guy in the middle of the interview wanted me to stand up. It was very strange. In the history of me doing a radio show, I've never had anybody that told me to stand up in the middle of an interview. That was really weird. Now he's like hate tweeting me on his page for attention. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Herb. Herb is next up on PTL. Hello, Herb.
Brian, that interview went south when he started talking about Biden and Biden's son. I knew things weren't going to go too good after that.
Well, not at all. Not at all. Hold on. Let me just interject. Let me just interject real quickly, Herb, and just correct you on something. I had no problem talking about Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, and for 10 minutes at least, I allowed him to do so. I didn't insult him. I didn't disrespect him. I was just asking him challenging questions. Let me be very clear. The reason why the interview went south was not because he was talking about Joe Biden and Hunter Biden. It's because he personally attacked me for asking challenging questions. So you're wrong, as usual, but go ahead, Herb.
No, I'm just saying that I knew it was going to go south. I'm not saying the reasons why. I'm just saying that was the beginning of the end of the interview. But the other thing is that I'm wondering why you had him on the show if you don't believe nothing he said. Anyway.
So I had him on the show as I've mentioned about 5 times in this show, and I will mention it again just for you, Herb. I had him on the show because he made some news because he used to work for Steve Bannon, and he put out a tweet going after Steve Bannon, claiming that Steve Bannon owes him 15 months of work and that he was going to the New York AG to help end, quote, the fat fraud's freedom. He called Steve Bannon a little bitch, among other things, and I wanted to give him the opportunity to talk about Steve Bannon as somebody that worked with Steve Bannon and worked very closely with Steve Bannon. I did not want to talk about anything else but that, but he wanted to come on and he wanted to talk about Hunter Biden's laptop. So my only question to him was, you can talk about the laptop, that's fine, even though he didn't show or even mention any real evidence that Joe Biden committed a crime. If you noticed, I asked him in that interview, Herb, probably a dozen times, what did Joe Biden do? What laws did he break? And he just went back and deflecting and talking about Hunter Biden. And then I asked him a question that bothered him. I said, on Steve Bannon's podcast, besides talking about Hunter Biden's laptop every day, did you ever call out Trump for lying about the 2020 election? Now, notice how he didn't answer the question because he never did. And I'm just pointing out hypocrisy here. He obsesses about Hunter Biden's laptop and refused to call out Donald Trump on the Steve Bannon podcast for literally anything. And then he made the dumbest analogy. He made like a chocolate analogy where I guess if Hershey's is paying me and I took a bite out of the chocolate and it was terrible, would you say it? Well, yeah, I wouldn't want a product sponsoring my show that sucks. So yeah, I would.
No, I heard it. I understand, but let me ask you this though, Brian. You asked him a question, and the question was you started whataboutism a little bit. You started going back to Trump. And it wasn't about
I didn't bring up Donald Trump until 30 minutes into the interview, so you're 100% wrong.
I know that, but when you did bring him up, it was because he was bringing up things about Biden.
No, he wasn't bringing up things about Joe Biden. He failed to mention anything that Joe Biden did that was against the law. He brought up alleged details about Hunter Biden, and then I asked him if any of this was true or if there was any credibility to it. Why wouldn't James Comer hit you up? Why wouldn't House Republicans want this information?
But he might have thought you meant James Comey.
Right.
He might have.
No, but here's the thing. No, he said Comer was afraid of the CIA. A dumb and ridiculous response. So in closing, Herb, let me ask you a question. And please answer it honestly.
And
Okay,
then,
Herb?
and then let me
Herb,
ask you one.
Herb, okay, Herb, I want to like you. Please answer this question honestly. If this guy had any real goods and real evidence that Joe Biden committed any crimes, don't you think by now, after the Republicans have been investigating the Bidens for years, that they might have hit this guy up, Jack Maxey, and said, hey, show us what you got? And the only real reason why nobody did is because the guy is a fraud and he has no credibility. Doesn't that make a little bit of sense, Herb?
I've never heard you. You're right. I've never heard of the guy before,
Okay.
And
Yes.
you're right. It's in the investigation because they did it.
And as I've said, and by the way,
if they haven't hit him up,
by the way,
let
Herb,
me ask you a
okay,
question.
hold on. Just let me finish here by saying this. As I've said, Herb, if there's any real direct evidence, I have no problem with an investigation, and let's see and hear it. They haven't even hit up Jack because they know the guy has no credibility. He has no money. He has no job, and he spends all day on X like so many of the other right-wing turds do. Now he's going after his former employer, Steve Bannon. Go ahead, Herb.
Well, just let me ask you one question, and then I'll let you go. Can I call you a little man from now on?
Well, that doesn't bother me. Just don't ask to stand up. Just don't ask me to stand up in the middle of a phone call, okay? Like what Jack did. Okay?
I
All right.
can't see you anyway.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, buddy.
All right. Thank you, Herb. All right, Herb. We can get along. Let's go to Paul. Paul is next up on PTL. Hey, Paul, what's going on, man?
Hey, I want Herb to prove to me that he wasn't dropped on his head as a baby. That's what I want Herb to prove. God, great. I don't know where you find these people, man. I mean, they're just so dumb, Brian.
Well, Jack is like losing himself on social media now, tweeting about me. He's lost it. He's totally lost it. Can I read you his tweet? I'll read you his tweet, Paul.
Please, I'd love to.
So he just tweeted the wrong account. I took a screenshot of it, by the way, because I knew he'd eventually delete it. Because he's such a moron. He tweeted to the wrong person. He just retweeted, and he said, just had an outstanding interview. By the way, I don't think anybody would characterize him as being outstanding. But he said, I just had an outstanding interview with this little fellow. By the way, I'm 6 feet tall. Nobody's really characterized me as little. But he said, just had an interview with this little fellow with the academic pedigree, yo, show for it. He can't even write a sentence. Pedigree, yo, show for it. That's what he wrote. Everyone who warned me was on point. By he means everyone. He means a couple trolls on social media. Let's see if he says, let's see if he runs it. He's so dumb. He doesn't even realize I'm live on YouTube and anybody can go back and listen to it right now if they want to do. Of course I'm going to run it. I'm going to put it on every platform. Why wouldn't I?
Yeah. Hey, I was just calling in about your thing about Matt Gaetz.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I see all the stuff online and it's kind of just tiring is, oh, the Democrats didn't do this. Here's the reality, Brian. These people voted for a felon. That wasn't a deal breaker. A rapist, a guy that cheats on his wife, that caused an insurrection, who nominated a guy who had sex with a minor, who nominated Pete Hegseth, who's paid woman because he's assaulted them, who went to UFC with Dana White, who slaps his wife, who nominated RFK, who cheated so much on his wife that she committed suicide. This is what they voted for, Brian. This is what America is.
I agree with you.
We got to quit just saying, oh, the Democrats did this. Listen, they're not perfect. You and I agree. They are not perfect. But Joe Biden is not a felon.
Well, of
that's
course.
Like saying, prove that Pete the Magic Dragon isn't real. And if you can't do that, then I'm just going to say he's real because you can't prove that he's not.
You're right, Paul. I'm with you, my friend. I'm up against the clock. I asked him multiple times what crimes has Joe Biden committed. We have a listener who just tweeted at Jack and said, it's live on multiple platforms, FM radio. He gets to recap the interview with his callers. You look worse every minute. By the way, he's right. So that'll be fun. If you missed the interview with Jack Maxey, there's people calling him Jack Maxey Pad on social media. I don't endorse that, by the way. But anyway, I don't endorse that. But if you missed it, subscribe to my YouTube page at PTL Radio Show. Again, it's at PTL Radio Show. We're not only going to post that interview, we're going to highlight that interview. We had a lot of time with Jack. I talk about two people from both ends of the spectrum. One dude who's extremely intelligent, incredible, from Midas Touch, Adam Mockler, and then some moron who used to be in right-wing media who doesn't work anymore for Steve Bannon, who is self-admitted broke, and his only platform now is X. So we will definitely post all that stuff and repost it and put it all up. All right. We will take a 22-hour break. Please check out my website, pushingthelimits.live. Again, that website is pushingthelimits.live. We sell merchandise up there. Merchandise, of course, and you can donate on there, and maybe Jack will donate today. I don't know. We'll see. I know he's a big fan of the show. Tomorrow on the program, we're going to talk AMFest with a guy who was actually there, a right-wing conservative Trump supporter who actually I do get along with. His name is David Pollack. He's going to be joining us tomorrow on the show. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a great day.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado.